When setting up a new project, if none of the available presets here in the New Project dialog match the needs of your project, you can manually specify project settings using the Custom Settings tab right next to it. These settings are organized into 4 categories: General, Capture, Video Rendering, and Default Sequence. I introduced project presets and custom settings in the previous movie. Let me now review in more detail how to set up a project using the various options here in the Custom Settings tab. If you're new to digital video, the number of options here can be quite overwhelming at first, but don't worry, the choices are actually a lot easier to make with the background information that I'll provide in this movie. If you frequently use the same custom settings in your projects, your settings can be saved so they appear as an option under the Custom Preset list. I've actually created one of those here in this version of Premiere. I have my VTC 1024x768 custom preset that's there. You can also delete presets that you're no longer using. To save a preset, set your General, Capture, Video Rendering, and Default Sequence custom settings here, and then press the Save Preset button. Start off with those settings here in the General category. Choose general settings that conform to the specifications of the dominant source files in your project. For example, if most of your footage is DV, then use the DV playback editing mode right here under Editing Mode. DV NTSC for North America and DV PAL for Europe. This editing mode specifies which video method is used to playback sequences, which time bases are made available, which compression methods appear in the video settings panel, and which display formats are available. Choose an editing mode option that best matches the specifications of your source footage and/or capture card. This setting does not determine the format of your final movie. You'll do that when you export your project. Timebase is next. Timebase specifies the time divisions that Premiere Pro uses to calculate the time position of each edit. In general, choose 24 here for editing motion pictures. 25, notice, is the default for PAL. If we choose NTSC, notice that it changes that to 29.97. The Playback Settings option over here to the right displays playback options for most of the editing modes. Select this option to display a dialog box of real-time playback, export 24p conversion method, and desktop display mode options. You can also choose whether to disable video output when Premiere Pro is in the background, and whether to enable aspect ratio correction on external devices. More on aspect ratio in a little bit. The frame size setting specifies the dimensions in pixels of frames when you play back sequences. In most cases, the frame size for your project should match the frame size of your source files. For example, the frame size of this video is 1024x768. The pixel aspect ratio drop-down menu here lets you choose the aspect ratio for individual pixels. Choose square pixels for analog video, scanned images, and computer-generated graphics, or choose the format used by your source. If you use a pixel aspect ratio that is different from that of your video source, the video may play back and render with distortion. Next, we have the field settings. Video footage consists of 2 fields. This setting specifies the field order, or which field of each frame's interlaced fields is drawn first. If you work with progressive scan video, select no fields or progressive scan. The video display format lets Premiere Pro display any of several formats of timecode. Changing the display format option does not alter the frame rate of the clip or sequences. It just changes how their timecodes are displayed. The time display options correspond to standards for editing video and motion picture film. I'll be covering these options a little bit later in the tutorial. The title safe area specifies how much of the frame edge to mark as a safe zone for titles so that titles aren't cut off by television set overscan. That's the process where television sets make the image a little bit bigger. A rectangle with crosshairs marks the title safe zone when you click the Safe Margins button in the source monitor or program monitor. Titles are usually assumed to require a wider safe zone than action, so you have also an action safe area. This specifies how much of the frame edge to mark as a safe zone for actions such as animation or moving titles. Next, we have the audio options down here. Sample rate, in general, the higher the sample rate, the better the audio quality when you play back audio in sequences, but they require more disk space and processing power. Try to record your audio at the highest quality sample rate and then capture audio at the rate at which it was first recorded. Then the audio display format specifies whether audio time display is measured using samples. Audio samples are milliseconds. Usually when I'm working with audio, I like to do audio samples. That tells me the length in seconds of the various clips. Let me now move on to the next movie and complete my review of the various options here in the Custom Settings tab by reviewing those settings in the Capture, Video Rendering, and Default Sequence categories.